defender. Soloniuk fires, scores!
Welcome in, Chicago Fire Weekly, presented by the Private Bank, the official bank of your Chicago Fire. We are live at the Heineken Pub 97. We are each and every Wednesday throughout the course of the season. Fred Hubner along with Frank Lopez, Paul Tenorio. And guys, we actually get to talk about a game today, a 1-1 draw on the road in Columbus. And Frank, you know better than anybody, a point on the road is always a good point.
No, definitely a great start for the season. Obviously, it's an area where, you know, we talk about never easy picking up points on the road in this league, and it's been a great start for the team.
Look, I think one thing you learn in this league, not only is it important to pick up any points you can on the road, but every game matters. Every point matters, whether it's the first week of the season when you're rusty, you're not quite the team you want to be, or it's the 34th week of the season when everyone's watching and it's decision day. So a crucial point on the road for sure.
Paul, you said last week you were tired of watching preseason soccer. Now we have a chance to look at highlights from regular season soccer. Take a look at some of the highlights from the game last Saturday in Columbus. Fire gathering before the contest, and it was a quick start for the Fire, quick start for their keeper, as Bava had to come up big really early in the contest. You'll see it right here, just the third minute of action, and he comes up big, definitely, making a huge stop. Here you see it again. Miram, none too happy. What's that little push there at the end?
Well, he's just frustrated. He's saying, how can you save that one?
We can do without that.
It was huge, especially 2-3 minutes in.
Here we see Duluth with a real nice ball to Nikolic, and he puts it up and over the net. He splits the defense. A real nice ball. McCarty actually got the ball to Duluth, and they went from there. The first goal in the 17th minute, a nice ball from Miram into the head of Ethan Finley, and he puts Columbus on the lead 1-0. Perfect header for Ethan Finley into the net there in the 17th minute. We move on to the second half. John Goosens, we'll talk more about him a little bit later on. He has a nice opportunity to tie. It goes just wide to the right side. We see it again, just missing it. His left foot barely missing the goal. McCarty with a steal here, gets it to Goosens. Goosens, and David Accam does what he does. He puts it in the net, ties the score at 1. Nice move. He has a defender going every which way.
Menza in that situation, he's just so, scared of his pace because he thinks he's going to beat him to the left, and it's just a great little fake by Accam there, but an even better finish.
Velko, Padovic, and the Fire come away with a 1-1 draw.
Well, finally the season started, and I think we started very well. We didn't have a good first half, but credit to our players, great reaction, some adjustments, and we had I think, very good game in the second half. Obviously, we had very good opportunities. Same in the first half, but we didn't convert. David's goal gave us more confidence, and then we started to play much better and created more opportunities. We were very close to score the second goal, but at the end, I think it's a good start of the season. It's a good coming back from a negative result, and it's a huge boost for our team. From now on, we now just looking only on the next game against Real Salt Lake. We got to prepare, recover, and start building the team for that game.
So the Fire go on the road. They come away with a 1-1 draw, and Frank, it was kind of a tale of two different halves. The Columbus seemed to have a little more of the play in the first half. Second half, things changed up a little bit.
No, 100%, and I think you saw two different teams, and I think some very good adjustments at halftime, and you saw a different team the second half, and we saw one of the clips early on where Goosens gets the ball, but everything started with just a little bit more intensity, a little bit more commitment from every player on the pitch. The team was a little bit more compact, and the more they pressured the ball and forced Columbus to play a little bit quicker, they were able to force mistakes, then get the ball, and then, once they get the ball in transition, there's a lot of quality in the final third, and as the game went on, you just felt that not only the tie, but the Chicago was so much closer to the 3 points.
And I think that's one of the biggest things. You guys brought it up in the broadcast, and it's the power that they have up front, the attacking weapons that they have up front for this year.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there are multiple threats to score goals, but I agree with Frank. I thought the game turned in the first half. You saw them pressing, but they weren't pressing together, and so they got pulled apart a little bit in between the lines, and that allowed Columbus to play a little bit more, and they like to play. They like to keep the ball. In the second half, they came out, and you saw them pressing together, pressing a little bit higher. I thought especially in midfield, we saw John Goossens closing a lot better. Dax McCarty started to get on the ball a bit more when the Fire had the ball. So there were a lot of positive elements. It's just a slight shift in how the team pressed, and suddenly they started to find the game. And I also thought when they brought Luis Solignac in, he did a really, really nice job with his defensive work rate and his positioning, and helped the Fire get a hold of the ball a little bit more.
No, for sure. And then the clip that we looked on, that opportunity that Goossens got, that's basically like 1 minute and 30 seconds into the second half. And all that started with, the team was better compact. They were higher up the field together. They forced a turnover. And then Goossens gets the open space. And when you give him that, he takes one touch. And you can just see he was just eyeing the back post. But everything just started a little bit there. But for me, the key after that was the big save right after that shot by Goossens.
Right.
Bava makes that save. That's a key play in the game for me.
Yeah, he made a bunch of good saves. We'll see some of those in the second segment. Also, a little bit later on in the show, the Chicago Fire General Manager, Nelson Rodriguez, will join us. We will look ahead at the home opener coming up this Saturday, as the Chicago Fire will be at Toyota Park against Real Salt Lake. A 1 o'clock start with a 12:30 pregame. You can catch it right here on CSN. Dan Kelly, Frank Lopez, and you get to be on the sideline. I hope it's not as windy as it is today right outside, because you'll be flying away on the inside line.
It'll be nice and cold like it always is.
It will be. We come back, we'll talk more about the game, the 1-1 draw, and we'll look forward to the game this coming weekend against RSL. You're watching Chicago Fire Weekly, presented by the Private Bank.
Preparation is not optional. Preparation is priority. I prepare when no one is watching. Preparation is part of me.
Advocare Rehydrate, redefining rehydration. Official sports drink of Major League Soccer.
John, you're home.
What's going on?
It's this paint, Valspar Reserve. Nothing stays on the wall. Not anything. Not any of these things, John.
Right, Valspar Reserve. Super stain resistant and scrubbable.
And this color, still perfect.
Yeah, looks great, Val. How much coffee have you had?
3 cups. 4.
Valspar Reserve Paint and Primer with hydrochroma technology. Now the colors you love stay the colors you love. Exclusively at Lowe's.
Heineken tastes perfect every single time, and that doesn't happen by accident. It takes 15 years to become a Heineken brewmaster, almost as long as it took me to master this look.
She came to meet a man. She found an angel. Cuckoo, cuckoo, la-da-da. What's his name now? Cuckoo, cuckoo, la-da-da.
Still practicing. It takes 15 years to become a Heineken brewmaster. There's more behind the star.
Welcome back to Chicago Fire Weekly, presented by the Private Bank, as we are at the Heineken Pub 97. Frank Lopez, Paul Tenorio, me, I'm Fred Hubner, talking about the 1-1 draw with Columbus in the opener. We talked a little bit in the first segment. We saw the highlights of the goals. But, Frank, look up top. The Fire go on out, and they get Nikolic to be their guy up top. He had numerous chances. He had chances. And it's also, when you're watching the game, one thing you see a lot of forwards do, they get offside. Just watching that line, he was called offside a couple of times, but that's what you're looking for, because there's numerous times he'll be beating people.
100%, and it's very close. So I mean, that just one time is going to get by. But I mean, if you look at throughout the game, over 90 minutes as a forward in this position, he had 2 or 3 good looks, and you know if he's going to continue to get those looks, he's got the ability to finish those off. So it was good, but also it's going to take some time. You know, preseason is one thing, and then the regular season, you saw certain moments, that understanding with him and DeLu, even in the first half, when, you know, the minute the ball was won by a Akam in the middle, then Dax right away, he set his up first pass, finding DeLu. Nikolic reading that, making that run into space, into depth. The first time ball, he gets through, he's leaning a little bit back. So that chemistry and understanding is going to get better every game.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what you want out of your front line is, you know, early on, they're not going to be as sharp as they are mid-season, but what you want is to see those runs being made in the right spots, the opportunities coming there. And you're right. I mean, you look at Nikolic's career, he's going to put one of those chances away as he gets them in the future. At least historically, over the last 5.5 years, he's done so at a pretty darn good rate. So the fact that he was in the right spot, I thought was a good sign. You want him to put one away, sure, but I think it'll come as the games come to.
Yeah, and he wants the next opportunity.
Oh,
He doesn't think about the one he missed,
Yeah.
and that's what you want in a forward. He's got a personality, and it's the next chance, the next play. Forget about that one. Give me the ball again.
And I would note also that you see him learning this league as he goes, okay? You don't get a true idea in preseason of the pace of the league, the physicality of the league, the defensive work rate that's needed out of your forward at times. And I think there were moments where Nikolic realized, okay, I need to press to be able to help us win the ball. I need to move a little bit more. That understanding only comes with minutes in this league, and I think that'll happen for him. He'll start to understand a little bit more about the teams he's playing, the center backs he's playing, and how physical he needs to be.
Well, and I think one of the nicest parts, too, with the attack the Fire has is DeLu and Akam and Nikolic, they're all unselfish. They're not worried about them scoring, probably are ultimately, but scoring the goal for the team is the biggest thing. And we've seen that from DeLu. DeLu with some really nice crosses, some nice passes, nice openings.
100%. But even if you go back and you look at the goal that Akam scored, the initial play, because it starts from the back.
Right.
Meyer plays a long ball. The team moves up very well. They're able to win the second ball, okay? And then, they lose the ball, and then there's immediate pressure. You know,
Right.
Goossens comes into pressure. They force a bad ball where Akam is closing in, and then a fool's got a slide tackle. They pick up the ball right away. Akam makes the run. They play the ball to try to find him. Nikolic is reading this play all the way. You see his movement. He's moving into the middle. If a fool doesn't touch the ball, you can see what Akam wants to do.
Right.
It's going to be a one-touch layoff to Nikolic. He's going to have one-on-one with the goalie. Thank you very much for coming. 1-1. So it deflects. He gets it. But I go back to the play before, a couple plays before, where Akam gets the ball in open space, and then he pushes the ball to the left, and Menza comes up with the elbow. He's so aware of his pace, and this is where I think David Akam and his ability in the final third is improved so much, because he gets it, he gives him the little fake, he respects him so much, he cuts inside, and it's just a great finish.
And I would also point out Nikolic's movement. It's not just about being able to get the ball and finish in that moment as well. He also understands by making that run, yes, he's there, he's available for Akam to play that little one-touch, but it also causes Mensah to have to pause and respect that run until he sees his center back moving with, and then he can react. And just that split second gives Akam enough time to recover the ball after the deflection, and then a little Ghanaian on Ghanaian crime, he spins Mensah around and finishes it.
Well, we're talking about the guys up front. We'll talk a little bit more about that also. But when you look at it, and one of the keys also was saves from Bava. Not only in the third minute, but also another big save late. You go on out, and you get a keeper. He makes 2 big saves in the game, even more.
For me, the second half, the start of the second half was huge. I mean, obviously the beginning of the game, because I think the team, the Fire, did not start well in that match. The first 45 minutes, I think they dropped off too much. They gave Columbus a lot of space to play through. The second half was different, and you can just see right from the start of the second half. So that save right there, for me, was the key, because then, kept them at 1-0, and you always feel positive about the players and then the chances the Fire are going to get. And that was the key moment in the game for me.
I think goalkeeper is a position where, more than anything else in this league, you need time in the league to understand it. Bava's going to learn game to game about how different teams play. You see a lot of vertical passing in this game at times, long balls, diagonal balls into the box, crosses. Columbus plays both, and I think Bava was a good way to start to get a feel for how these teams are going to play. He's going to see a different type of team against Salt Lake, different type of team against Atlanta, but his shot-stopping ability has to be there. You have to ask for a big save or two, and you got 2 of them in this game.
For me also, I've got to touch just the mentality and the attitude of the players the second half. They came, everyone was more committed, everyone pressed, everyone just worked extremely hard, and there was a confidence level and a sense of belief, like, that it was going to be a different second half, and it was. And then, like I said, as the game went on and on, you felt that at any minute, I think the team, great 1 point, but they were so much closer to getting a 3.
So they have the 1 point. They have their home opener coming up on Saturday at Toyota Park as Real Salt Lake comes to town, a 1 o'clock start. Get your tickets at chicago-fire.com. We come back, we'll have a chance to talk with the Chicago Fire General Manager, Nelson Rodriguez. You're watching Chicago Fire Weekly on CSN, brought to you by the Private Bank.
I joined the Army in July of '98. I did active duty 11 years and 2 in the reserves.
Our 18-year-old was in an accident. When I call USA, it was that voice asking me, is your daughter okay? That's where I felt relief.
It actually helped to know that somebody else cared and wanted to make sure that I was okay. That was really great.
We're the Rivera family, and we will be with USAA for life.
USAA. We know what it means to serve. Call today to talk about your insurance needs.
Thanks for the ride.
No problem.
Did you get a new car?
Yeah, I just got it from Continental Motors.
Continental Motors?
Yeah, my parents have bought all their cars from Continental, so I knew that's where I should go.
Well, how was it?
It was great. They made it super easy, and it felt like buying from family.
Do you think they'd treat me like family too?
Oh, absolutely.
Experience the Continental difference, where smiles are standard equipment. Locations in Countryside, Hinsdale, and Naperville. ContinentalMotors.com.
At Coors, our mountain is creating a more sustainable world. It's why we pioneered the recyclable can, made our breweries landfill-free, and built the most powerful solar array at any one brewery in the country. But our climb is far from over, so we keep pushing forward. Coors Light, whatever your mountain, climb on.
Discover Wisconsin. Join me and the rest of the DW crew every week on this station for all things Wisconsin. Find us on social media right now for gorgeous photos and great Wisconsin giveaways. Speaking of free stuff, did you know every month we give away an exciting vacation? This month you could win a prize package to Green Bay. Just visit discoverwisconsin.com for details. Saturday mornings at 10 on Comcast Sportsnet.
Welcome back to Chicago Fire Weekly, presented by the Private Bank. We are at the Heineken Pub 97. We'll be here each and every Wednesday, 6 o'clock, the start time for the next several shows. Come on out to the Heineken Pub 97. You can be part of the studio audience throughout the course of the year. Frank Lopez, Paul Tenorio, me, Fred Hubner. The guy in the end, the guy that helped put this team together as the general manager, Nelson Rodriguez, joins us. You had a lot of plans, a lot of ideas in the offseason, Nelson. How did you feel after the first game?
Well, the biggest disappointment of the first game for me is just the real unfortunate injury to John Goossens.
Mm-hmm.
You know, here's a guy who worked so hard in the offseason, really wanted this opportunity, particularly to play in the middle of the field. I think for those who watched the game, as he grew into the game, our team got much better. And it's almost a sin that he suffered such a devastating injury on the virtually the last play of the game, and in an all-out effort to preserve the result for us. So, you know, we're confident that he'll make his way back, but that's the lasting impression of the game. Beyond that, I honestly thought the result was fair. I thought Columbus could have had more than one in the first half. We probably could have had more than one in the second half, and on balance, I think the game was pretty even.
I'm going to follow up on the Goossens injury because from multiple angles this affects the team. Midfield depth, as well as the fact that, as unfortunate as it is, it also opens up an international spot on this team. So if you are looking to add pieces that could open up more possibilities, does this create a need to go out and find a midfielder right away? And secondly, I know you've had a couple right back trialists in. How have they looked, and do you feel you're close to adding some depth on the back line?
Well, first, on the international slots, we're aware of our situation, but the injury is bad all the way around, and we would solve the international slot issue if we needed to in a few different ways that we have figured and planned. In terms of making an immediate change, no, we don't feel that need. You know, this confers an opportunity to guys like Drew Connor and Brant Bronico to try to step in and assume that role that John was going to have, or wide for Daniel Johnson maybe to sneak some times on the flank, and Daniel can also play inside a bit. So we're going to take a deep breath. We're not going to look to make a move in response to this injury at all. That said, we have been looking, and we have reserved salary cap space and MLS resources to bring in another player. And we have been searching for what we call another impact player, someone who can help us more on the attacking side of the ball, preferably a more experienced player still. But we have some options, and we'll keep looking. With regard to right back, which I think was the third part of your question, Ryan Taylor is still in with us this week. We thought it was fair for him to get acclimated, time change, different pace of game, different style of game here, and we'll see how he does before we either continue the search or select him or look for another alternative.
Nelson, can you give us a little bit update where Polster is at the moment? That's the first question, and I know if it takes a little bit time for the next segment, and I just want you to touch a little bit upon the moves that you've been able to make with Dax and Juninho, because these are both two players that I know that a lot of teams were after. And even when I was in Columbus with Juninho, I went the day before with Dan Kelly, and I had an opportunity to watch Columbus train. And the first thing that Greg was telling me, man, I was trying to get the guys Juninho. I don't know how they were able to pull that one by me, but I tried to get him here. So can you touch a little bit upon that, how those things came together?
With Matt is still probably about 3 weeks away, and we will be a little more cautious. This is the second time he's suffered the same injury in a short span of time. We want to work surrounding muscle groups for him, strengthen his core so that this doesn't become chronic in any way. But his progress is good. His progress has been surprisingly linear, meaning he is getting better every day without any kind of relapse or falter. And obviously that's another reason why we feel we can withstand this injury to John. Dax and Juninho, those acquisitions were very different. Dax was premeditated. This was a caveman-like hunt over a long time to try to get him, and he was, his character and his play was something in particular that we wanted. Interestingly, the final deal that we were able to successfully acquire his services was almost exactly what we had projected. We had, through the combination of the picks that we sold and the money that we gave, was almost exact. Juninho was very different. I have to be candid, we had no idea that he would be available. We had no idea that he was coming back to the league. But once we knew that, we struck, and it's a lesson that we learned last year. When there's a deal to be made, sometimes you got to make it. And we were very aggressive with Minnesota. I think Minnesota did very well for themselves because by virtue of their trade with us, they de facto retained the first spot and then were able to flip that again for a sizable sum of a return. So I think that worked well. And I know that initially people were, how can these two guys play together, or aren't they the same? They're just very good players, and they complement each other very well. They work well within the system that Pano wants to play. I think the fans will be pleased when they get to see him in a regular season match together.
When we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about the midfield, also the keeper, Bava, who made some big saves. We talked about that, and also leadership on this team as they get ready for the home opener coming up on Saturday. Get on out there, 1 o'clock start at Toyota Park as Real Salt Lake comes to town. We are here each and every Wednesday right here, Chicago Fire Weekly, presented by the Private Bank.
NovaCare Rehabilitation knows the importance of an active lifestyle. If you're injured, we bring that back to you. NovaCare is the exclusive provider of physical therapy and athletic training services to the Chicago Fire Soccer Club. With 32 convenient Chicago area locations, NovaCare provides unmatched clinical expertise and customer service. For a center near you, or to request an appointment, visit NovaCare.com or call 800-770-6682. NovaCare, the power of physical therapy.
Don't let pain knock you out of the ring. Our hand, wrist, and elbow experts are pioneers worldwide. You need us in your corner. Midwest Orthopedics at Rush. Make an appointment today. After our minimally invasive spine surgery, 80% of golfers maintained or improved their handicap. Be treated by the pros to play more like a pro. Midwest Orthopedics at Rush. Make an appointment today.
Welcome back to Chicago Fire Weekly, presented by the Private Bank. We're here talking with Chicago Fire General Manager Nelson Rodriguez. A 1-1 draw in the opener, as Frank read at the start of the show. Road points are always important, and great to get one in the opening game.
Yeah, again, I thought it was a fair result. For me, I tried to look for different things over the course of the game, and one of the things that I came away impressed by was the collective work of the group, particularly in the last 10 minutes. You know, as I scanned the field, I saw a lot of guys communicating with each other, pointing to the clock, clearly a signal saying what happened last year is not happening this year. And I thought for the last 10 minutes we were the better side, and I felt very secure, where last year I have to admit there were many times where I wasn't so sure.
Well, I also saw something on the game. Now, Frank, I'm not sure if you saw it. I'm sure you did. But there was a time where Dax was looking for the ball, and one of the defenders kicked it long. And Dax turned around and said, "I'm here." And that was showing me immediately the leadership he's taken over as one of the midfielders.
No question. And, you know, from talking to some of the guys, I know Dax had a lot to say in that huddle right before the game, but he seemed to capture the spirit and the mood of the guys precisely. These are the things that we thought we were acquiring when we made the move, and already through the limited time he was with us in preseason and through the first week of the regular season, he's demonstrating all of that.
You know, I tend to look at, and we've talked about this before, the building process in Major League Soccer is usually being kind of a 3-year journey. You use the first year to bring some pieces in and identify a core and maybe the core pieces you're missing, go out and supplement that, and then by the third year, you're kind of fine-tuning. It looks like that's the track you guys are on. The second year, you're adding guys like Juninho and Dax and Nikolic and Bava. The first year, Kapelhoff, DeLu, players like that coming in that were already there. Brandon Vincent, Jonathan Campbell. We've talked about that third spot that you have, or that next spot you have that you're identifying. What to you is the next piece that fixes this? Are you looking for a number 10 type player? Are you looking for a winger? Is it just that it's got to be the right attacking piece?
Yeah, I think we have options. So look, the team is still not as complete as we would like. You know, we would love to reinforce the back line a little bit. We're light in numbers and can use some cover in some different spots in the back line. Having said that, we've had this conversation as a staff. If we could bring in what we thought was an impact player, and for me, those are always on the offensive side of the ball, no disrespect intended or discounting the importance of good center backs, but for me, that's on the offensive side of the ball. Or do we look to spread that and maybe look to add 2 very good players in various spots where we think we could use some more cover or an improvement in our starting 11? And I think if we can get that impact player, that would be our preference. Again, right now, and I think we've demonstrated, we will be deliberate. We want to, as best as we can, make sure that when we bring a player in, it's the right person first, someone who fits in with our culture and is going to uphold our values, and second is a player that we think gives us the best chance to win.
Nelson, I just wanted to ask you about the Tulsa partnership a little bit and how important that is, especially for some of the younger players, now to get some meaningful games. And then the players that you guys do loan there, are they seasonal loans, or you can bring them back at different points in the season?
We're excited to be with Tulsa. I want to recognize that I thought St. Louis FC did a really good job for us, but I think we both just outgrew the partnership. And I think they have new designs and new goals, and we respect that. And we needed more certainty. And so Colin Fernandez will go on a season-long loan to Tulsa. Now, with all of our loans, we always have the ability to recall, but the plan for Colin is go there, get your games, prove yourself, get your minutes. If he's crushing it and we have a need, we can bring him back. But David Vaudrell has been instrumental in that affiliation. He has regular dialogue with Pano on a weekly basis, or with Matt Pearson, our head of scouting. And so there's an understanding as to what some of their needs are, what some of our desires are. But what we've told our players, anyone who goes down there, they're not guaranteed anything. They still have to earn it at Tulsa, because that's the mark of a pro.
You look at some of the other young players. You mentioned Daniel Johnson and Georgi Mihalovic and the guys like this. You see them slowly but surely as the season goes on, possibly fitting in somewhere?
I don't know if it's slowly or surely. I think what we always say is, if you're good enough and you've earned it, you'll be on the field. And I think that Pano has proven that. You know, he's proven he will change from game to game. He's proven he will play guys if he feels that they give us the best chance. And that's a mentality that we're going to constantly reinforce. Nothing is given to you. You should expect nothing. You have to earn it. And when you've earned it, it's not guaranteed for the following week. You've got to repeat that process.
How much do the plans that you're making at this point, are they impacted by results? You know, I know you've talked before about maybe not hesitant, is not the right word, but there is a process when you bring someone in the summer for them to adjust to the league and all of that. Does that change if you look like you're one piece away from getting that bump into the playoffs?
The first thing I'd say is I learned something from listening to Bill Polian, who constructed the great Colts teams. You're never one player away. And to think you're one player away is probably a fool's mentality. So I hope not to fall into that trap. It's a constant process of improvement from within the group, from within the league, and then from outside the league. I think we've accelerated our progress. Look, we wanted to improve the middle of our park from last year to this year. At the start of that process, that I think we get 2 players of the ilk of Dax and Juninho, boy, that would have been a dream scenario, and we managed to. So I think we're a little bit ahead of where I anticipated. We have to give this team time to gel, to come together, to learn each other, to forge an identity for themselves. But again, what I can share with everybody is the locker room. Last year was a good locker room, filled with a lot of good guys. That holds, but there's a different sense of accountability and trust.
Nelson, we appreciate you jumping on in. Let's go on out and get 3 points on Saturday. That'd be a perfect home opener.
From your lips to God's ears, and we look forward to seeing the fans out at Toyota Park.
Chicago Fire General Manager Nelson Rodriguez. We come back, we'll talk more about the Chicago Fire. And don't forget, you can get on out there, chicago-fire.com, a 1 o'clock kick against RSL at Toyota Park. You're watching Chicago Fire Weekly, presented by the Private Bank.
Chef Q. Cooking is like therapy for me. It helps me stay calm, mellow, in touch with my inner emotions. It's a great release.
Do you have too many bills but not enough money? Would you like one lower payment for all debt, little or no money down? I'm attorney Peter Francis Geraci. Our Chapter 13 plans stop collections and creditors in one day for as low as $95 every 2 weeks. Get rid of bill collectors and high car payments. Get one lower payment today. Call or click now.
When you need to be debt-free, call 1-800-CALL-PFG. That's 1-800-CALL-PFG.
So, thought you could use something special, for retirement. One last trip to the toy store.
Funny, after all we've been through, this may be my first case of the nerves.
Oh, relax, Agent. I've kept you healthy this long.
Yes, you have, but come tomorrow, your protection may not be there.
I don't see you slowing down anytime soon. Here, take this.
So, you've saved the best for last.
Cream puffs, cream puffs. Or as the guys and I call them, profiteroles. My recipe includes heavy cream, vanilla extract, and a dusting of cocoa. Let's eat.
Welcome back to Chicago Fire Weekly, presented by the Private Bank. It is time for Chicago Fire Field Vision, powered by NovaCare. The Chicago Fire preparing for the home opener. These guys will be on the call along with Dan Kelly, Frank Klopas, and Paul Tenorio on the sideline. Now, the weather has been changing. I know you've been keeping an eye on it. It'll be windy. Hopefully not as windy as today because, Frank, I don't know about you, but cold you can play in, snow you can play. The wind is really difficult.
Difficult, yes. I don't mind rain. I don't mind the cold, but the wind there, I mean, it's really difficult now. I mean, especially if you have the wind sometimes against you. So, but this is one of the few games that early in the season when I'm not jealous of Paul being out on the pitch there. You know, I actually like being inside and, you know, being nice and warm with Dan Kelly there, having a good view of the stadium.
You see, I made the mistake of tweeting the other day when it was beautiful out to how nice it was and how much I was enjoying the winter weather in Chicago, and I just knew it was going to be like 30 degrees for the opener, and here we are, 28 degrees. So
yeah,
listen, it's not going to stop the fans from coming.
No, not at all. Not at all. And one thing the fans will get a chance to see, Dax McCarty playing with Juninho. Last week on Chicago Fire Weekly, Dax talked about playing with Juninho in the midfield.
Someone I have a ton of respect for. We're very similar players. You know, both of us have played for some pretty successful teams in the past couple of years, but whenever I played against Juninho when he was on LA and I was on New York, it was it was a mutual respect. I didn't know him that well personally, but it was always a thing after the game where we'd shake hands and say, good battle, and I think he's going to be a tremendous asset for this team.
That we did not see in the first week because Juninho was suspended. We will see it this week. What difference do you see that making? Because we didn't see a lot of them in the preseason because Dax was gone, but Dax and Juninho in the midfield, that means a lot to this team.
Well, listen, Nelson talked about it. I think they're both very good players. When you have very good players, they're easy to play with. I think maybe in the game with Columbus, you saw Dax a little bit being more of a pivot of a number 6, staying a little bit deeper, and then allowing Goossens that freedom to be more of the box-to-box player. I think having a guy like Juninho there, that can change. At times that Juninho can come a little bit deeper, get the ball, which will free up Dax to get a little bit forward. But regardless, I think you have two guys that want the ball, want it under pressure. They're going to be able to keep it. They don't lose the ball, and they're able to make good decisions. And good decisions for me are knowing what you want to do, but having the ability, the technical ability to be able to execute that. So you'll see a lot better possession over 90 minutes.
Did you also notice there were numerous times where Dax, the backs on both sides, either Harrington or Vincent went up, Dax slipped back there and actually was playing a defender, playing a back position because those guys were going up and making nice runs. And that's something you would think maybe would probably continue throughout the year.
Well, it's the evolution of the number 6 spot. I mean, a lot of times now what you see is when you have the ball, you become basically a 3-5-2. And you do that by pushing the fullbacks forward. The center backs drop out to create width, and the midfielder drops into that hole a little bit. And Dax does that very, very well. He did in New York. And I think, you know, to what Frank is saying, you now have two players on the field who want the ball and who can dictate the game. Mm-hmm. I think that Dax had 80-some touches in this game, and it was more than any player that the Chicago Fire had all of last season. So that already goes to show that he is a guy who's going to be dictating the game a little bit. And now you add a second player who's looking for the ball like that. It's going to change the way that this team plays. And, you know, we haven't yet seen it in a regular season game when things are full bore. And I think it'll be really interesting to watch that dynamic.
Well, exactly. And I think you saw it with Dax in the Columbus game. There were moments where they were able to win that ball, and he's already scanning the field. You know, he knows that if the ball comes, when the opportunity is there, you can just saw how quickly he was able to start the attack from one pass out of the back. Now you have two players able to do that. So you're going to have possession, but it's possession with a purpose. It's not just keeping the ball. Mm-hmm. And with those guys, it's like if you have the ball on one side of the field, they have the quality now with one pass to switch the point of attack, maybe find a com, maybe find Vincent overlapping, and right away now you're able to attack and break all that pressure with one pass.
We talked earlier about the difference between the first and second half. How much of that had to do with the high pressure that the Fire brought up, and how much with Juninho and McCarty in the middle does that help allow the players to put high pressure up there?
I think, first of all, for me, I think the first and second half, it was more about just bringing a lot more energy on the field and more of a commitment. And it's a process because you want to do certain things, but then you go to the first game and, you know, listen, you can have the best game plan, the best preseason, but then you realize that the players are not robots, they're human beings, and it's going to take some time to adjust. The second half was better because of the commitment, the energy level, just the ability to pressure and close the ball down quicker. One guy did it, and then everyone else, it just fed off that. I think with both those guys on the field, it's through possession, you know, your lines are not stretched. When you play very direct play, you know, you get stretched as a team. Now, when you put over 10 passes together, you're able to move your lines closer. You have more players to be able to move the ball. But when you lose it, you know, the spaces are a lot closer. If I have to close 5 yards, I can do it right now. If I have to close 20, it's difficult. So that's the closer together you are, you can play, but you can also press better when you lose the ball.
You used to be able to do it at 20.
In my glory days. I never wanted to defend. I just wanted to play with the ball and go forward.
we saw a lot of passion. We'll talk about it in the last segment, but that's what the Fire are looking for. Passion from the fans. They always get it. You got the home opener with Real Salt Lake coming out. Setting a tone in these home matches is really important, and that's what I think the Fire are going to need to do right off the bat early in the contest on Saturday. Fire Field Vision powered by NovaCare. The Chicago Fire getting ready for their home opener at Toyota Park. Real Salt Lake coming to town. We'll talk more about them when we come back. Don't forget, you can get tickets chicago-fire.com. A 1 o'clock kick on Saturday. And you can catch the game if you can't get out there on CSN. 12:30 pregame with Dan Kelly and Frank Lopez. We come back, we'll talk about Real Salt Lake. You're watching Chicago Fire Weekly, presented by the Private Bank.
John, you're home.
What's going on?
It's this paint. Valspar Reserve. Nothing stays on the wall. Not anything. Not any of these things, John.
Right. Valspar Reserve. Super stain resistant and scrubbable.
And this color, still perfect.
Yeah, looks great, Val. How much coffee have you had?
3 cups. 4.
Valspar Reserve Paint and Primer with hydrochroma technology. Now the colors you love stay the colors you love. Exclusively at Lowe's.
Heineken tastes perfect every single time, and that doesn't happen by accident. It takes 15 years to become a Heineken brewmaster, almost as long as it took me to master this look.
She came to meet a man. She found an angel. What's his name now?
Still practicing. It takes 15 years to become a Heineken brewmaster. There's more behind the star.
Find a location near you at chicago-fire.com/youth.
NovaCare Rehabilitation knows the importance of an active lifestyle. If you're injured, we bring that back to you. NovaCare is the exclusive provider of physical therapy and athletic training services to the Chicago Fire Soccer Club. With 32 convenient Chicago area locations, NovaCare provides unmatched clinical expertise and customer service. For a center near you, or to request an appointment, visit novacare.com or call 800-770-6682. NovaCare, the power of physical therapy.
Welcome back, Chicago Fire Weekly, presented by the Private Bank. It's time for the Valspar Primer, brought to you by Valspar, the official paint of your Chicago Fire. We take a look at this week's opponent, Real Salt Lake. They had a 0-0 draw this past week against Toronto FC, and one of the reasons it was a 0-0 draw, guys, is anytime you get ready to play Real Salt Lake, there's one guy you got to beat, and that's Nick Raimondo. He was amazing in this game. He stopped, first he caused the penalty kick by taking down Jovinko, and then he actually stopped the penalty kick, which he's very good at.
One of the best in MLS history when it comes to penalties. I thought Jovinko's penalty was actually quite poor. And you can't be off the mark against Raimondo, and you can see he's already guessing that way. Jovinko hits a penalty that barely gets, not even close to the corner actually, and makes it an easy save for Raimondo. But that was huge, obviously, at home to come up with a big save.
It's amazing. Look at just his reaction. He already knew exactly the way he was going to shoot and take that one, and it just so quick off his line to react. And you're right. I mean, he's one guy, even though it's a PK, you're never sure that it's actually going to get by him.
They actually said on the broadcast that the last 10 PKs Giovinco has taken have all gone in the same direction.
Right.
So he had some idea which way to go, but like you said, he didn't get it anywhere near the corner.
It wasn't a great penalty, but anytime you can make a save on a guy like Giovinco, it's a special save. And whenever I think of Armando, I think of growing up in one of the worst trades, the ones you want to have back if you're DC United. Freddie Adu for Nick Raimondo. There were some other pieces involved, but that was the basic trade, and I'm going to go ahead and say RSL got the better of that one.
Yeah, it's always tough when you have Nick Raimondo on the back line. They had that 0-0 draw. Kyle Beckerman is a guy, they talked a lot in the broadcast of that game also. He didn't play much or practice much in the preseason, but he doesn't seem to need to. He goes out there and just does the same job every game.
Listen, let me tell you something. All preseason long, they were looking for somebody who could slide into that number 6 role that Kyle Beckerman's played for so long at RSL, and they just don't have that piece yet. And it was obvious all preseason that they needed somebody in there. And I thought Beckerman was a little bit slower last year. He wasn't as good as he has been, but he is still the most important piece, I think, to RSL's midfield and how they like to play. And I thought he was very good in the opener. And for me, he's going to be there until somebody's able to take a hold of that role, whether it's Omar Holness or somebody else. But I thought a very good opening game for Beckerman.
No, for sure, especially when you hear that he didn't even train at all in preseason and then he steps in a game like that. But you're right, Paul. I mean, I think that his ability to cover the same ground that he used to in the past, that's not there, but he's a lot smarter. He reads the game better. He anticipates. He's in better spots. He doesn't have to do as much running, but then he's just a guy still as the number 6 or the pivot role from deep. He's the one guy that can dictate the tempo of the game. He can organize everything for RSL, and they've been playing a guy next to him, and Sonny Steven. I think that he's in that role because he can cover a lot more ground than Beckerman can. So it'll be interesting to see in this game, against the Fire, because some of the pieces, especially the forward line with Movsisian and Plata, guys that have had, or last season, they had big numbers last year with Movsisian 9 goals, Plata 9 goals, also 12 assists. They're going to rely heavily on them and also on their new DP that they brought in.
Yeah, I was going to say their new designated player, Rusnak, and they bring him in, a 22-year-old Slovakian, and it's going to take him a little while to figure out exactly how to play with Plata and also Movsisian.
No doubt, and I think the Fire will have a little bit of an advantage. A scouting report on him. They've got 2 of his former teammates from Groningen on the team, and Johan Kappelhoff and Michael Deleu, so they'll be very familiar with him. He needs to come in and be a very effective playmaker right away. I agree with Frank, though. I think the matchup in this game is going to be that front line against the back line of the Fire, especially, to me, the Fire's right side. Michael Harrington starting at right back against Joao Plata on the left side. He's so dynamic. He can take you on one-on-one, but as his 12 assists from last season show, he's very capable of being a distributor as well. They need to close him down quickly. He's not going to be able to get as much help from the center backs. Harrington isn't, because you have to respect the forward there in Movsisian. So it's going to be up to Dax and Juninho to make sure that they're closing down on the outside there and don't allow Plata to get isolated against Michael Harrington.
And I think this is going to be a little bit of an issue again that was also in Columbus, and then now it carries over to the RSL game, because I agree with Paul. With Plata, he's not a guy that tracks all the way back. A lot of times he's not going to come back. He's looking for transition opportunities to break on you quickly. But he's a guy that makes those diagonal runs that are extremely hard to pick up. So you have to track with him, or you have to be able to communicate with the center back. There's got to be communication there. And it could be a situation where that decision-making that wasn't as good the first half in the Columbus game has to be spot on in this one.
They had some different center backs in, different meaning that not exactly what they were looking for. Schuler was there, a guy that's a local product, I want to say, from Wabanzi, and also David Horst. Now they have some other younger center backs, but they probably won't be ready for this weekend.
Yeah, Justin Glad is coming back from duty with the U.S. under-20s, who won the CONCACAF championship for the first time. Very, very talented young center back, maybe the best young center back in the league. Aaron Mond is not ready yet health-wise, so I think we'll see the same back line in this game, and a lot of experience, but something that I think the Fire will be able to take advantage of, perhaps on the speed side of things.
You can be out there watching the Chicago Fire in Real Salt Lake. The game gets underway at 1 o'clock at Toyota Park. Get your tickets to chicago-fire.com. If you can't make it out there, you can catch the game on CSN. A 12:30 pregame. 1 o'clock is the start. The Saturday opener, 1 o'clock start with RSL. You're watching Chicago Fire Weekly brought to you by the Private Bank.
Thanks for the ride.
No problem.
Did you get a new car?
Yeah, I just got it from Continental Motors.
Continental Motors?
Yeah, my parents have bought all their cars from Continental, so I knew that's where I should go.
Well, how was it?
It was great. They made it super easy, and it felt like buying from family.
Do you think they'd treat me like family too?
Oh, absolutely.
Experience the Continental difference, where smiles are standard equipment. Locations in Countryside, Hinsdale, and Naperville. ContinentalMotors.com.
The Illinois Lottery presents a whole bunch of luck in 30 seconds. Here we go.
That's a long way.
Oh, she did it! Oh, oh. We won! Yes, we won! Oh, we won! We won!
The latest Alex and Ani Blackhawks bangle will arrive at the Blackhawks store soon. The new charm featuring the team's 4 feathers was voted on by you, the fans. This Blackhawks store exclusive will be available in gold and silver. Call 312-759-0079 for more details.
The more they raise their hands out there, the more they'll raise their hands in here. Good Sports gives kids the lifelong benefits of sports by providing equipment to those most in need. Donate today, because kids who play do better.
Chicago Fire Weekly, brought to you by the Private Bank each and every Wednesday. Come on out to the Private Bank Fire Pitch. You can sit here, be part of the studio audience. Our shows will be at 6 o'clock each and every one of the following weeks, and we will be here talking about the men in red. We'll be hopefully talking next week about a win against RSL. Want to talk a little bit about what's going on around the league. You saw around the league, first week around Major League Soccer. It's like the first week of any league. Everyone seems like be trying to get their footing.
No, I agree. I mean, I think the storyline is, for me, it's just, the Orlando opening the new stadium, obviously the game in Atlanta, because overall the play, wasn't great. And it's been, it's what we expected first game in the season.
Yeah, in Orlando City, they opened up their new stadium, and Paul, you know all about it. It's taken a while to put this up, but just a gorgeous place.
Unbelievable for me to watch. I remember when I got there in 2013, I think it was early 2012. I remember sitting down with Phil Rollins in 2013 and him telling me, by the end of the year, we're going to have an MLS team. And now look, with the stadium that they have, it's really remarkable. And obviously right here, a huge loss for Orlando City early in the game. Chicago's down, and I thought already they have some real problems with the depth in midfield, and especially when it comes to a playmaker in a 4-4-2 diamond that Jason Christ likes so much, and now you lose the guy that you build that around, and I don't know what they're going to do. Giles Barnes did a nice job when he came in, ends up setting up the goal, but it's a tough loss.
No, for sure, and you can definitely, you saw the impact in the game. You see the goal here that they scored in the back post with Laren, but throughout the game, you felt like that New York FC controlled the game, and then I think Orlando was missing that one piece, and especially a player like Akkad that, wants the ball in dangerous situations, that can take a pressure away, and he's so much of an outlet for them, and he's always looking for the ball, and they missed that, and I felt that New York was all over them. Obviously, they got that goal from Laren, and New York FC was very close to equalizing.
The other thing that really took center stage this weekend was Atlanta. They're called an expansion team. They've spent a lot of money. They opened up at Bobby Dodd Stadium, 55,000 people at the stadium, a huge crowd as Atlanta got their season underway. It looked for a while like they were going to win, and then all of a sudden a couple of quick goals from the New York Red Bulls late in the contest. But again, a huge crowd in Atlanta as they open up their season as an expansion team, spending a bunch of money.
Yeah, they're playing in the Falcons' new $1.5 billion stadium. They built a $60 million training facility in Atlanta, $8.5 million transfer fee for Miguel Almiron. I think around $12 to $15 million in transfer fees total for this roster. So this is a high-spending team, and they're a high-octane attacking team as well. We saw that early on. For the first 60 minutes of this game, New York Red Bulls, who's been the best team in the East last 2 years, looked like the expansion team. But guess what? First week of the season, fitness plays a big role. Red Bulls, 2 games already. The game fitness was there. Atlanta clearly lacking fitness, and they were dominated over the last 30 minutes. They're going to have to get that fitness under control.
That last 30 minutes, I agree. And also, they're from a maturity standpoint, they have a lot of young players, especially that attacking core. And, I mean, the chances that they had, I mean, their ability now to put those chances away because the game was there for the taking. And I do agree with Paul. And then if you look at the game after the 60-minute mark, it just was changing. You can just see momentum changing, and then obviously the chances the Red Bulls got and the chances that Jesse Mars to the team, had a big impact in the outcome.
Well, I think Frank would know this better than anyone, having coached in this league. It doesn't take long if you're an outsider from the league to learn the quality of this league. And I think this was Tata Martino's first game. He knows he's got a lot of talent and maybe doesn't understand what he's up against in the league yet, and he's going to learn. And I thought there were a couple interesting decisions in that lineup. To bring a guy like Jeff Laurentowicz into the starting lineup versus a rookie in Julian Gressel, I think would have been something that would have calmed the game down, especially even if you bring him in around that 60-minute mark to slow the game down. They were a little bit late with that substitution, and he'll learn over time that matters. Those veterans matter in this league. There's enough quality to come back, and he's a smart coach. So a lot of lessons for Atlanta in the first game, but I think more so the excitement about that team, those fans, a player like Almiron who, man, he looks really good. I'm excited to watch how that team matures.
I agree with you. It was fantastic to watch.
Well, and you guys are going to get a chance to see Atlanta because after you do the game on Saturday, you guys are taking a quick road trip, right?
Well, I'm still trying to convince Frank to do it. He wants to put his feet up. He probably wants to drink more than he's drinking today,
well,
but
listen,
we'll see.
I don't mind going watching Almiron, but after the performance that Minnesota had the last week, I'm debating if I should get in a car and drive 6 hours to go out
listen,
there.
I volunteer to drive. He can be the passenger.
So get it out there. The Saturday home opener, Kyle Beckerman, RSL, 1 o'clock start at Toyota Park. Chicago-fire.com. A happy birthday to my wife before we get out of here. Each and every Wednesday, we'll be here, Chicago Fire Weekly, presented by the Private Bank, right here at the Heineken Pub 97. Thanks a lot.
Man, you were going to